Hello everyone. AmyR here from Prairie Paper and Ink with another video for the Picket Fence Studios YouTube channel. I'm going to make a couple of holiday cards combining one or two of the newest Picket Fence Studios products along with a couple things that were released 1 or 2 months ago, couple months ago, something. As always, I'll have links to everything I used in the description box below the video, so you can check that out. We're going to do a little bit of OLO marker or alcohol marker coloring and some splatter. Of course, add a bit of bling and just have some fun with it. So, like I mentioned, links to everything are in the description box below the video, and then just keep watching and I'll show you guys how I made these cards. So I'm using the Peaceful Christmas Flowers stamp set that was illustrated by Kelly Taylor. And I've got my stamp wheel here and some heavyweight smooth white cardstock. This is Simon Says Stamps 120 pound smooth white cardstock. And I put a panel in my stamp wheel, and these are the two like poinsettia images I want to use from this stamp set. And there's another like cluster of florals as well as a little like berry sprig and then sentiments and things, but these two poinsettias are my main focus. And I'm going to stamp them onto that white cardstock with some intense black ink, which is just alcohol marker friendly ink. Stamped it, didn't press down the middle of the large one. This is why stamp positioners are wonderful, because then I can just restamp it. And then I stamped it a second time. I kind of didn't really need to, but old habits. And I do really like a really sort of intense black outline of my stamped images. It's just personal preference. So for coloring, I'm using my OLO markers. This first little bit here is real time. This is how I move normally. This is how I color normally. I say that because I do edit down my videos and speed things up so that we're not sitting here all day. Also because I don't have a whole lot to say. I can talk all y'all's ear off, but sometimes it just gets a little redundant, you know? You guys don't need to put up with me that much. But that first little bit was normal. This is now super sped up in editing. I kept the coloring simple. Like just kind of typical 3-color blends. Didn't do anything, you know, groundbreaking, but you definitely could. You could even do like a blend like this, these exact colors, and then I would add, say, another like darker shade that you could add into like the base of the petals. That would really elevate this, you know, and build up that dimension. So especially if you're, you know, somewhat newer or just you're getting bored with your alcohol marker coloring and you want to step it up a bit, going from like a 3-color blend to a 4 is definitely a way to do that. It just, once you're kind of comfortable with the blend, it's like, do I need a lighter shade? Do I need a darker shade? More often than not, it's the darker shade that if you add. And then if you really want to step it up, you could go in with like color pencils, you know, very like it's just a soft black color pencil with a very light hand, obviously. And, you know, touch the darker areas with that, add some shading, things like that. I say all this. Do I do any of it? No. More so because I'm just like, I got too much on my plate and I'm just more than content with just how I color and what works. But there are most definitely ways to, if you really want to start building dimension and all the things. But for these, I just kept them simple. So I did, you know, the simple red blend for all of the petals. And then for the leaves, I did a very sort of true green blend for these because just very traditional Christmas colors, which I know not normally what I go for because I love anything else. These would look gorgeous though with like done in pinks or aquas or purples, like anything really. Sky's the limit. We can do whatever we want. But for this time, I wanted straight red, like just red poinsettias because they're gonna pop on my card bases. So once I was done coloring them, I had to split them apart with scissors because I couldn't fit the wafer dies because I had stamped them just slightly too close together. So I just cut the cardstock apart and then used the coordinating wafer dies to die cut these. And I did everything twice because I decided since I got all the supplies out, why not make 2 cards? And then one of the newer products I'm using, this is the A2 Marble notebook cover. And again, you've got options here. I'm using this like I normally will use a lot of background stamps, is I just have it face up on my work surface. I'm inking it up and I'm going to press my cardstock into it. If you want to ensure that you're getting like very even coverage, or you think you might want to restamp it, use your stamp wheel or a stamp positioner. For this, I'm not worried about it being perfect. I kind of like the little imperfections and it just works for me. But do whatever works for you. And I stamp these directly onto my card base, which I do not do very often. And I've talked about this. Even with these, and I was trying really hard to keep my cards clean, because that's why I usually do everything on like a separate piece of cardstock and then I'll glue it at the end to my card base. Because the amount of times I was erasing the back of these cards because I was getting fingerprints and just so many things. So many things. But I had this idea in my head, so I stamped it directly onto my card base, which these are side folding A2 note cards, which is also another, like, I'm being so adventurous here. I'm being sarcastic, but I usually do top folding cards. It's just a personal preference thing. Doesn't matter. But for these, a side fold was kind of necessary because I want them to look like notebooks. So after I'd stamped the fronts of them with that marble notebook cover, and I used that same intense block ink for that, on the insides of my cards, I put just a piece of Post-it tape right where the score line is so I don't stamp past the score line. And then I just use the smaller poinsettia image, and I'm inking it up with a lighter shade of ink. This is Rouge Fresh Dye ink from Altenew. And I'm inking it up, and I just use an acrylic block for this because it was just quicker and easier to stamp this onto the insides of these cards. And then I trim down some strips of just black cardstock that I'm going to adhere to the edges to give it that notebook look. So I trimmed down the cardstock, like I just eyeballed it. It was like roughly an inch, sort of, maybe not quite. Again, wasn't measuring. I was like, this looks wide enough. And then I adhered it directly to my card front here. So then we've got that notebook look. And repeat the process. I'm going to put my big acrylic blocks down just to hold everything flat. Let that glue dry. And this was why I went with the red poinsettias. Although, again, any color, really, in the end, any color would have worked. Because it's a black and white background, so any color would have, like pink would have been so fun. Aqua, purple. If you like experimenting doing like white, with the right shading and things like that. I'm, again, not usually that adventurous, but I sure love seeing when other designers do that and create all the depth. But I was happy with the red and green. It just worked. And my theory with all of this was to make these poinsettias look like stickers. So this is where the white outline around the die cuts just kind of served its purpose, because I wanted it to look like these were stuck to the front of a notebook. So to glue them to the notebook, I kind of held them in place where I wanted them, held and then flipped over the card, and then used the edge of the card as a guide and just traced with a pencil. This, again, was just to prevent me from putting glue past, so they're not hanging past, so I'm not getting glue everywhere, because, yet again, I was trying really hard not to get crud all over the back of these cards. So normally I would just slap those flowers down with a bit of glue and then just trim it off. There'll be glue everywhere. It gets all over. I don't really care, but I was trying to be a little proactive in protecting my card bases. And this does work. So I used those pencil lines as my guide to stick them down. And then I didn't have blobs of glue oozing out past the card bases. And then I used the card bases as my guide and just flipped them over, trimmed off the bits hanging off the edges with scissors. I did that to both of these card fronts. And for the most part, I actually, other than like the random smears, which thankfully don't really show up on camera, and again, I just use like an eraser, a little bit of a sand eraser where needed, and ended up kind of not totally destroying the back of these cards, because that's usually what happens. Which, also, splat box. I put some copy paper in the splat box, again, to protect the backs of my cards, because my splat box is filthy. Like, you just look at it and you're going to get like sparkly sludge all over you. And I splattered Picket Fence paper splatter watercolor. This is the liquid gold. Beautiful. So use my fan brush, splattered that onto these backgrounds, and then let those dry. And then I took just the sending word from the Peaceful Christmas Flowers stamp set. I kind of like that it's a build, like the words are all buildable like phrases depending on what you want to say. But I used just that word, I stamped onto a scrap of white cardstock, and I die cut it with the coordinating wafer die. And then for the rest of my sentiment, I'm using the big Joy to the World word die set, but just the word joy. I didn't use the To the World wafer dies from the set. And I die cut the letters from some matte gold cardstock, and then I die cut one more layer from the heavyweight white cardstock. So builds a little bit of dimension, but I didn't want to like really go for the full depth. Normally I do like a minimum of 3 layers, but 2 was enough for this. And I've shown in other videos, specific as Picket Fence has many of these big word die sets. And I've shown in other videos using like the negative of the wafer dies and, washi tape, things like that to line everything up properly. And if this word was any bigger than these 3 letters, I would do that. But this was simple. I just adhered the O and then adhered each letter on either side of it with the craft tacky glue, put the acrylic block on top just to weigh it down, let the glue dry. We're good to go. And then I adhered the other little sentiment to that. So it just says sending joy. I decided not to stamp any other sentiments or anything on the insides. I thought just those stamped little poinsettias were more than enough. And then once those were adhered, I am going to, and I've again sped this up quite a bit here. These are the North Pole gem mix, which I've used in a bunch of videos this year. I don't know what it is with this. I think because there's a lot of colors in this set. So I get like my magpie tendencies, like digging through all these little gems. It's just, I don't know, it brings me satisfaction. So once I was happy with the placement of these, I just adhered them into place with little dabs of some craft tacky glue. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, this is very subtle and nearly impossible to show on camera. This is one of the Karin DecoGel pens. I've had these for a while. This is the gold one, and it is sparkly, and it's a subtle sparkle. It's not like super, super sparkly. It's just subtle. These are pretty. I have been hoarding these for a while, but then I was like, ooh, this would look really pretty on the flower centers. And like I said, it's difficult to show on camera. In real life, you can kind of see it's just that subtle sparkle, that little hit of gold, and very pretty. Very pretty. I need to use these more and not just like open the container and stare at them and then not use them. Anyway, I applied it just to the flower centers, let that dry, and then I'll turn my flashlight down to try and show, it's just, yeah. Because I've got the metallic and the gems are kind of interfering with the reflection. You can just barely see that gel pen and just, again, subtle sparkle. It's really pretty. So let everything dry. That finished off these cards. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all of the things in the description box below the video, so you can just expand that and check it out if you're interested. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos. Thumbs upping, commenting helps a ton. It's so appreciated, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.